thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the program. I'm Sarah Edwards. I directed, I produced and edited this film, and I'm joined here with the cast. Although calling them a cast is kind of a weird misnomer, but we're joined by Kia Sutherland, Ronald Baker, Leah Roberts-Moser, Cliff Mansfield, Angie Ruley, and Marley Corrado. Thanks, guys, for being here tonight, and we're just going to have a little chat about how your lives are today and the process of making this film. So, thanks for joining me. I wanted to just, I think a lot of people are wondering here on Facebook, if you've watched the movie, what on earth you guys are doing now and how life has changed for you in the past month or 2 months since we kind of last talked to you. What happened, what I wanted to explain to our audience is that I collected videos from this group from about late March to mid to late March to just the first week of June or so. So it's been about a month and a half or so since I've really connected with you and asked you what's going on. So, but I think a lot of people are wondering about Kia, first of all, since the movie kind of ends with her graduation. So Kia, tell us what's been happening in your life.
Not much. I've been, just working. I kind of decided during this whole, coronacation, as we're calling it, to kind of get a job. I mean, of course, why in this circumstance, but someone had to be out there, and I was like, I'm young, I can do it. So that's basically what I've been doing. I've been luckily, now that everything's kind of reopening, I've been able to spend time with some of my friends that I haven't been able to see since before March, before this whole thing started to get bad, and then some of them even further back. So I'm glad I was able to reconnect with them. Some of them I just reached out to, or they reached out to me during this pandemic just to see how I was doing, and that kind of sparked some of our friendships. So that was also really good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just kind of chilling, getting ready to go to college soon.
So which college, Kia?
I'm going to be attending Salisbury University in Salisbury, Maryland this upcoming fall.
Studying? You have any particular kind of I don't know what I'm going to study.
I'll be majoring in international relations and doing a Spanish minor, and then that's where I start. That's my beginning of my college education.
Now wait, I have one more question before we move on. Why Spanish minor when you were about ready to go on your French trip? You after studying French for so long at Central.
Well, actually, Spanish is my first foreign language that I learned, and so I've actually been taking that for 4.5 years. I did it in middle school, but they didn't really teach me anything. So that's my half year. Then high school I did from freshman to senior year, and I only picked up French my junior year of high school. And so when it came to wanting to major in a foreign language, I was talking to my academic advisor and then department chairs specifically for foreign language, and I ended up doing way better on my Spanish placement test than my French placement test, which is understandable. I only had really about 1.5 years of French education, and then compared to 4.5, so. Yeah.
Cliff Mansfield, thanks for being here. What's going on with your business right now?
Well, I produced 1 tank of oil, and just to keep everything moving, and they're still shut down. Everything's shut down. Prices still not come back. So it's and I don't know that it looks like it's going to come. The price will come back to where I can afford to produce my wells for a good bit of time yet. I mean, it's there's a lot of factors in this and then it looks like there's going to be some kind of uptick in this COVID again, and that's all those affect the price.
Yeah, that's one major aspect of what I wanted to discuss here, which is that the future is looking, well, I'd like to get all of your opinions on what the future is looking like for yourselves professionally. But Cliff, how are you dealing as a family? Are there any upsides for you right now?
The family part of it, everybody's being pretty careful, but we're getting together more often. But I mean, I wear a mask and gloves going to the gas station. I don't want to get this. And my family is pretty well paying attention to what they do. Hopefully there'll be a lot others join in that group to be careful. So I don't know.
Leah, how is church going? Are you getting people back in the pews? What's the future looking like for you right
now? In May, our church council met and made a plan for the summer. And in addition to making a plan for the summer, we decided that in August, we would make a plan for September, October, November. Our congregation is, it's made up of lots of different people who hit like every decade of age. And we couldn't figure out a way to regather in an equitable way. So we're still worshiping online every Sunday. We have a Zoom room that people from church can be part of. And then at 10:15, our Zoom broadcast gets pushed to Facebook Live on our church page and on my page. And so there's me in this room on Sunday mornings, and we have the campus minister and campus ministry students they're doing all the technical stuff behind the scenes, and some of them have left town, so like they're not even here. They're in Massachusetts. They're in lots of different places, literally in the world. And then liturgists and singers either do their part live or they do a video, and then we push the video whenever it's time for that part of worship. Jubilee Cafe continues to serve each week on Mondays. And we've seen a little dip here in the summer in terms of how many meals we're sending out, but we're still sending out lots of groceries in addition to hot food. Now we're just trying to figure out how it is that we're going to continue to be church for the long term. In March, it was quickly make a decision. And now it's let's step back and think about these things, figure out what we value and why these things are important and how we continue to be church when we can't physically be together.
Marley, you had a story that you told me when we talked that I was not unfortunately able to get too much into, which really because of timing considerations, and it's a half-hour program and all that stuff. But it was such a compelling story about your struggle to maintain your food supply during when the pandemic really hit. And so I wanted to know from you, how are you doing? Have you recovered your business a little bit? Are you getting a steady flow of food? And how are and you kind of have your finger on the pulse of a lot of the immigrant and Latino community, and what kind of feedback you're getting as we move forward into kind of unknown territory for the future?
June was really hard, just food-wise supplies. It was really hard to get certain things in stock. As of right now, everything is in, and we do have a steady supply of everything. So thank God we do. As far as our community here in town, I think that they are a lot more open to any other restrictions that we have in place. So they are a lot more willing to wear masks or do anything that needs to be done in order to prevent the spread of this.
So you said June was hard for supplies.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah,
so
what-
our main, so one of our main products is tortillas. Unfortunately, our main supplier of tortillas closed down for about 3 weeks, and it's even now isn't completely fully functional, but they do supply us with most of the product that they used to carry. But for about 3 weeks, we just did not carry that. And so that's essentially like a store not having bottled water. It's just something so essential.
I see. I'll move quickly and just get everybody in. Ron, how have things changed at work? I know you went back to doing elective surgeries at Carle Hospital. So are you just nuts at work and nuts at home now, rather than just nuts at home?
It's been nuts at both. Work, for a while, work was, I think I said in the interview, work was kind of a ghost town there for a while. Things have definitely picked up. I don't think it's all COVID related, but it could be that people waited to go to see to go to the hospital to get things taken care of, or to see their healthcare providers over, things that they would have naturally been more comfortable to leave the home with, and to get checked out, prior to the pandemic. So I'll say the last 2 weeks, work has been extremely busy. So it's nice to get back in the flow of things, but it is kind of scary in some ways, because a lot of this whole disease process, we still don't quite have a finger, on the pulse of exactly which way it's going to trend, or which direction it's heading to. My family life, though, my boys they're constant go. So, we don't really slow down that much. We are, busy playing baseball. My boys are riding bikes. We're still trying to practice the social distancing, which it gets harder and harder as the weather gets warmer and warmer. But things are picking up. It's just they're closer to normal, but not quite there. And then, but there's always that fear of, what's kind of sitting out there that we just don't know about yet. And hearing about some of these other states and what they're going through. I think Cliff mentioned earlier, is there going to be that, another spike, and, are we going to end up having to close down again? So there's still a lot of fear out there.
Angie Ruley, how is your business? You were an interesting person to follow, because in some ways you kind of illustrated in the most kind of dramatic, emotional way the change of thinking that happened as this pandemic became real and kind of stayed. Because I feel like at the beginning when I talked to you, you were kind of like, oh, this is going to be a 2-week thing, we'll be fine. And then as the months rolled on, it really hit you. So how's business? Have you been able to open?
It was interesting when I saw everything put together, because I remember sending you that clip, how, I was talking about how everything was a gift, that, that we had time to sit back and just cherish the peace. And then the day you said to me, I need you to start over and introduce yourself in the business again. And when you sent me that text, I remember I was in the car and it came through my car, and I just started crying, because I was like, oh no, I have no idea how I'm going to do this and stay composed. Because for me, I thought it was a great time to get back in the restaurant business, after I'd been out of it, and, get back in, set things up. And then time just kept passing and passing. And it's very each county is different in their with their health departments. Some are stricter than others, and our county is pretty strict. And they said right away that they were going to be following the governor's orders and sticking with protocol. So, the rules, like Gibson City, the mayor says, we're not going to fine anybody for not wearing a mask. They're all about letting people live. And that's great. But I have to follow the rules of the health department. And so the health department says, yeah, we're following the governor's orders. And so after listening to a webinar, all of the things that have to go into place in order to open a restaurant, it's crazy. And since phase 4 opened last week, 50%, in the dining area. Well, like I said, I have 5 booths and 2 tables in between the booths. So I can't keep people 6 feet apart. And there's just so many things that you have to do. And now they're asking, sign in to dine in to track everybody. I need volume in order to make a profit. And where I live in Elliott, we are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we are really in the middle of nowhere. The village has 250 people in it. And so I have to have something extra special to get people here. But those people come from all over the place. And to have to turn someone away because I'm too full, that just won't work. So I've been doing, sorry to interrupt. I've been doing like 1 night a week open to sell carry out chicken or fish. So, I mean, trying to do something to pay the bills because I'm still paying insurance and, my utilities and the rent. So
you mentioned one of the huge questions that I think everybody out there is dealing with right now, which is, well, in our area, in our state at least, which is that, we have entered phase 4. Yet we've seen nationally what happens when you open up, and kind of a lot of people I talk to say, well, just wait. We can be as stringent as we want here, but cases will go up. So I guess, and then of course there's the whole, for all of us with kids, kind of what on earth is going to unfold with this coming school year. I'm sure Kia really cares about that because she's about to, and I mean, gosh, this should be her college experience coming up. So wanted to get the kind of a group discussion going about what everybody thinks about how phase 4 will affect you and kind of how you're dealing with negotiating your future. Kia, let's start with you.
I'm personally kind of nervous to kind of see what happens now that we are entering phase 4, like we've mentioned. Like we've already seen on the news, a lot of states they've had alarming increasing COVID cases, and they've had to shut back down. So I'm kind of scared. I'm confident that in Illinois, we're smart enough to not let that happen. But anything can happen. It just depends. If it gets kind of bad again, to the point where they're starting to shut things back down, I'm kind of nervous that it's gonna interrupt my travel, just because I do have to travel to Maryland, and especially if they are going to crack down on letting people in and out of the state, or let alone my city, since I'm not like an essential worker or an essential being, I guess, at that point. It's kind of, I gotta decide. It's like I have to make it, but what happens if on my side it's closed, but on the other side, it just depends, because I have to kind of see how Illinois is doing and how Maryland's doing about how they're handling both situations. As of right now, both are, they're pretty good, and so I'm confident that I'll be able to travel safely and hopefully get situated safely. Fingers crossed. But yeah.
Yeah. So Kia, I know you're in the middle of a move. So you guys are definitely going to move, or you are, and I mean, and as an incoming freshman, you want to be there in Maryland no matter what you're for the fall, or
yeah, most definitely. Well, right now for the move, it's just kind of been halted because with having to get people out here to do stuff on the house has been difficult because of all these restrictions. So that hasn't gone as planned for us. So we've just kind of halt our move, and what we're thinking about doing is just having me and my dad move out there first. And then if things seem to calm down, and then think about moving the rest of the family out to Maryland, so we can all be together. But definitely, we're looking forward to. I mean, if it comes to it, I'll at least be there. That's our end goal. Like, I'll be there to move into the dorms, unless stated otherwise.
Okay, Ron, I'm going to toss this over to you because what I wasn't another thing I wasn't able to cover in the documentary is that you are a wrestling coach for kids, and so you're facing the double whammy of having your kids potentially in school or not in school in the fall, and your job as a wrestling coach, and also somebody on Facebook has asked the same question, which is, Ron, will the pandemic affect sports this school year? So, Ron, to you.
Yeah. Two huge questions. I mean, you're talking about it, you know, the school and education, and then what sports looks like. My boys have been playing some baseball and stuff around the area, which has been great and allows them to get outside. But they're still, I'm the head coach for the Champaign Wrestling Club here in Champaign, and we are kind of sitting back and waiting to see what, public health looks like, what kind of restrictions they put out. It's really confusing looking at the different phases that, Governor Pritzker puts out, and then what that translates into what athletics can or cannot do for their athletes to work out with. So I've been talking to a lot of coaches around the area, specifically trying to pick the brains of football coaches, because football and wrestling are both considered what's the term, the highest category of potential to spread the disease.
Contact sport.
Right. So I just still looking at that. We potentially our club works out at the University of Illinois, so we're looking to see, if we have a wrestling season, do we have a facility next year? Are we going to be able to find a different facility if we need to do that? Is there a lot, will anybody allow us to do that? Is that going to be so much of a liability that we're not going to be able to bring in kids? And then before that, though, the thing is, hey, are the kids going to be back in school? My wife is on the school board here for Unit 4. And so that's a lot of the discussion around the house of, are the kids going to go back to school? If they do go back, how are they going to manage that safely? Are the kids going to be, I've heard every time I go to work, I hear a different story of parents saying, hey, I heard that my kids are going to be going to school on Mondays and Wednesdays, and certain kids are going Tuesdays and Thursdays, and how, me and my wife, we have to work, or I don't know who's going to stay home. I think right now that's the more acute situation right now, is people are trying to plan for what their families are going to look like. Are they going to be online learning? Are they going to be in school? So still a lot of unknowns. And I think that's what makes this makes this situation so hard to deal with, is because it's not clear cut. You know what I mean? It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area there for us to still work through.
Marley, Angie, and Cliff, you guys really are the business types in this group. And Marley, I'll start with you. How are you, now that you know that the future is so unknown in terms of what will happen in phase 4 and beyond, how are you planning for your stock, for your business? And then Angie and Cliff, maybe you can join in on that and say how you're planning ahead or for in the coming months.
Personally, we are stocking up on certain things that we consider essential. And so even if cases or things, the supply chain diminishes, we will have a certain supply that will hold us over to a certain extent. So that's what we are currently trying to do. The 4th of July holiday is scary to a certain extent because it is one of our biggest days. So things like that I know will pull a lot of people in. We're probably going to put a PSA out on how many people we intend to have at the store, what the procedures are, just a reminder so everyone's completely aware. Everyone knows, but as a reminder for that day, because we do expect it to be full that day.
Okay. And then Cliff and Angie, barring, reopening your wells, reopening your restaurant, have you had any other ideas about how you can tackle the next months in a creative or new way, Cliff?
Well, I've looked at different scenarios at different prices, and I would probably tend to think that I wouldn't be able to employ anyone. I would probably try to do more things on my own, take from product instead of buying new pieces, use what I have till it's used up. I with such a small margin at the price it is now, there's a small margin. That works out fair if nothing breaks, because today when things break, it's not $500 anymore. It's $5,000. And that just doesn't lend to jumping in to the full production. So I've looked at it very closely and still satisfied with the answers that I've come up with so far. So it's that everything that I do is so subject to this price, and the world economy for oil is bleak right now. So that's where I'm at on that. I can't outguess it. If I had that crystal ball, I'd be doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, this whole question is one gigantic crystal ball, isn't it? So I apologize for that, but that's where we are in the world. I mean, everybody's kind of sitting here thinking, well, what on earth is going to happen? And what am I going to do? So Angie, and then Leah, I wanted to ask you, I mean, Leah did such a wonderful job. You've done a great job pivoting. And, that one of the wonderful clips in the documentary was your choir. So you've mastered not only the art of preaching online, but also singing with a great choir. So anyway, we'll get to you in a second, Leah. Angie, your what's up? How's phase 4?
I have no idea. I don't know what to do from day to day. I mean, of course, I have to be aware of prices of product. Chicken. My cafe, when I first ran this cafe, what made me unique and special was that I created, unique things, and I put a lot of love into my food, and I made my own hamburger buns, I made my own desserts, and just home cooking. Well, now I'm serving fried chicken, and not that there's anything wrong with serving fried chicken, but that's not really who I am, and that's really not, Bluefish. So, I'm having to pay attention. I mean, chicken, I just checked the price of the chicken. It went up 30 cents a pound. Beef, the price of beef is skyrocketed. So I just have to be cognizant of product, of what people are willing to pay, because there's a lot of competition with food, with restaurants. I mean, Gibson City is close, and there's a lot of restaurants there that are doing the same exact thing I am. So I'm here trying to do something different, and it's just getting really hard. And I'm trying to come up with other ideas, but it all costs money, and I'm paying all these bills for serving chicken once a week. So I don't even know. I don't know what to do at this point. So
I know what you're talking about those bills. They continue to come in. You have insurances and all these other items that just don't stop.
right.
You know,
Well, you were
you
talking
know,
about
get
breakdowns.
$45 from your car insurance. Well, that's nothing like the $3,000 a month for liability.
Exactly. I mean, because I'm paying all those things, and just tonight, you know, the exhaust fan stopped working, and the broaster was making this, like, something's wrong with the gas valve, and I had to have an emergency call to, you know, to the company. So, you know, those are two big things that I mean, that has to be taken care of. And so there goes tonight's profit, you know, with service calls. So, I mean, you just never know. It's very unpredictable.
How has that hit you, Leah? I mean, you're not a traditional business, but you of course run Jubilee Cafe. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, churches also we have budgets and we have bills. We have salaries to pay and insurance, and not being in the building has been a challenge. For us, though, we were able to set up online giving several years ago. So I just have to keep reminding people that if you want this ministry to continue, and if you have funds to share, then you have to go to the website and click donate and give. But you know, our ability to pay our bills and our ability to pay the salary of our church employees, that's all dependent on, you know, on whether or not my congregants have money to be able to give in the way that they have traditionally and in the way that they have promised to do. So yeah, so there's a lot of uncertainty about all of that. We also host different community groups, and we share space with some other organizations, and so that has also affected budget as well. It also has put us in the position of having to figure out how it is that we can open our building back up, if we can open our building back up to some of those smaller groups. You know, and so I'm really, really grateful to have people who are committed to keeping people safe, and folks who are willing to like dig in and do all the reading that they need to do to sort through all of the recommendations to figure out what kind of policy we need to write in order to move forward. And thank God for people who are good humored in the midst of all of it, because people in general are under so much stress right now, and sort of the anxiety of the world, right? It's really high. And so when there's anxiety in one part of the system, it affects the whole system. And I'm just really grateful for people who are willing to take deep breaths and remain even keeled, even whenever they get frustrated or just tired of continuing to do the same things, right? Just because we're tired of wearing masks and staying home as much as possible doesn't mean we should just stop doing those things.
I'd imagine that your job as a pastor have you experienced a lot more people coming to you for pastoral care now than you ever have in your career?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. Back in March, we set up 2 different times during the week when church folks could hop on a Zoom call like we're on right now. And especially in those early weeks and in the first couple of months, there were like a dozen people on those calls, and we were people were talking about things and at a level of vulnerability that I've never experienced in my 15 years of being a clergy person. People were really willing to, to go to the heart of the matter really quickly. I'm in several colleague groups. I'm in, some as part of my denomination in the United Church of Christ. And I'm in a Facebook group with spiritual leaders all over the world. There are over 7,000 clergy people and spiritual leaders in this group. And folks have talked about how we've all experienced upticks in people struggling with depression, with anxiety, people who already struggle with addiction. The volume's gotten turned up on all of that. And so pastors are tired because we're having to, we're having to support folks to a higher degree than we ever have before, all while being televangelists, and none of us were trained to do that. So, this whole worship on Zoom thing is just not, like, I did not go to school to learn how to do that.
Marley, one thing, you run a store and you see the same people a lot every day. Have you become a de facto pastor for your community? I know you've done a lot of getting the word out. How has it affected you as somebody who not only manages a store, but also is the recipient of a lot of, the same people you see every day, and you must be friends with them?
I feel like I've become a confessional booth where we'll ask how their day is going, and they will just essentially spill anything wrong or anxious that they might be feeling. And so a lot of their purchases sometimes reflect that. So we'll ask, hey, how can we help or whatnot? But we definitely feel that we've become some sort of a confessional booth. And when the store is a little bit more empty or there's less clients, then people open up a lot more than what they would normally open up. So I can definitely see how pastors or spiritual guides would be exhausted at this point.
Let's just turn a minute to the film and the process of making of what you guys did. Essentially, I was in a position at the beginning of the pandemic where, we were not able to do what we normally do, which is take a camera to somebody. And so I kind of feel guilty in making this film, and that you guys did my job for me and did it, so well. So, but I was curious how this some of your favorite moments, not only filming yourselves, maybe there's the aspect of turning the camera on yourself, but also what you saw in the finished film. Do you have questions for each other, or favorite parts that you saw from each other's experiences? Anybody want to chime in on that?
I think that, I enjoyed watching Kia's experience, just because I also have a senior in high school. Mm-hmm. And so it was just interesting to see. It just seemed like there were times that she was stir crazy and bugging her dad. I thought that was so cute. But, I know what that's like. And, I have a senior and a junior in high school. So, they were both home. I really liked watching how that unfolded, and how she held up her. I'm so proud of you, Kia.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, I was saying to Ron that one of my favorite videos of the process were his kids running around nuts in the living room, egging each other on and getting into practice. One's fighting. They're basically fighting. Which is an exact replica of what has been happening in my house for the past several months. So that had to be one of my all-time favorite videos, Ron.
Thank you. It was, I could have sent probably 50 more of those, I think. I think that's one of the things that kind of stood out during the pandemic, is that, man, the the number of breakdowns and stuff that, you know, we had periods where we were doing really well and communicating well. And then all of a sudden we kind of hated everybody in the house. And so it was definitely trying times. There were definitely a lot of good moments, but it got rough. It got rough and real a bunch of times in the Baker household. But I'll take this opportunity to make a point. I liked the choir scene that Leah had. I thought that was brilliant. And for you not doing this whole Zoom thing and putting stuff together, I was pretty impressed, Leah. I thought that a choir scene was spot on. It was good.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. That my staff has been really phenomenal during this time, and our music director Kathy Lee has done an amazing job of including people, and she figured all of that out. And our organist Brian Clark, and then all of our choir members. So, yeah. So big props to them. They did that.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I just wondered how Angie staged that, finding that mushroom.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, Angie. I've heard from so many people like, where's that mushroom patch? Oh, I want to find that. I said, good luck getting that out of her, because it's not going to happen.
Nope, it's a secret. Nobody gives away their mushroom patches, and it
I just
wasn't.
don't know how you could. I don't know how you could do that timely like that.
Well, I recorded a lot of video out in the woods. So, and I was lucky that time, because I think that day I only found 2, and that was one of them. I mean, it's hit or miss. So, but no, I will not give away my patch.
Well, it's not a very good patch. You only got 2.
Well, right. You're right.
You can keep it.
I've learned a whole lot about mushroom hunting, because I said to somebody else, I said, is mushroom hunting really that big of a deal? And they were like, yes.
Yeah.
The first day that the governor opened all the parks was the first day that I went in, and people were walking out with bags and the first day I walked out with a bag too. So it was amazing. I mean, that was the last day I think I went mushroom hunting. So it was toward the end of the that one that I went to.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
It's nowhere near New Cliff.
Marley, if you're looking for a new product for your store, talk to Angie. She'll make you a special deal, because you guys were on the same program together. So right, Angie? No, I'm kidding.
We'll work something out.
Right.
I also, Leah, I heard a lot about your, it's 7 a.m. I haven't done my sermon yet. A lot of commentary about that from all over. So that was one of the most compelling videos, I think, that were submitted.
What I said in that little video diary was just so true. Like I've always just given the disciples such a hard time. Like, why are you afraid? What's wrong with you? And then for us to literally be locked in our houses because we're afraid of this virus, and rightly so. It just put a whole different spin on it. I'm also, I don't know, I tend to be a Sunday morning sermon writer, so that was not that uncommon for me, but having that kind of massive shift in my thinking was, that was pretty intense. But yeah, one of the elementary school kids at church, when I got a text the night that the documentary premiered. I got a text from his parents, and they were like, our kiddo is so impressed that you winged that sermon. He remembered it. And I was like, oh no.
Anyone else? Anything strike you about the scenes that you saw in the documentary?
I have to say, when I first watched it, I felt this real special connection with Cliff. I actually emailed Cliff last week because my papa managed oil wells. And so watching all of that footage, you know, I know what all that looks like. I know what it smells like. I could smell the oil wells, and it just brought me to a real important place about how this is impacting people.
I was going to say, I agree with Leah there. And I think I got some of that from this discussion just now of, I mean, yeah, we talk about kind of individual moments with the individual videos, but I think the overall message of how this has affected businesses and people's livelihood and into things like that. It's for myself, you know, the hospital's back running and there's a normalcy to kind of my day. And it's very easy to forget that there's still things that are affecting people in a lot of different ways. And to hear Cliff talk about the struggle, you know, his continued struggles, to hear Angie talk about the struggles that she's having in her restaurant helps to kind of bring me back to, you know what I mean, what's still going on. There are days where I can definitely close my eyes and wake up and things are normal. But to hear their stories again, I mean, it brought me back to watching the video and kind of relating seeing what they're going through. So I think that stands out a lot.
I will say, you know, that is the most striking thing about doing this project and bringing all of your stories together, which is the great common denominator. And when I was sitting there, you know, I looked at putting this together as a massive puzzle, and I tried to put ideas together as the half hour unfolds, as well as following some kind of basic timeline. But the massive common denominator for everybody is the great unknown. You know, this has thrust us all into a type of unknown that certainly we've never seen in our lifetimes, and how it's a great unifier, you know. So that was, and I think that's what makes it so compelling as a piece and as a story, in that everybody can relate to the oil producer, the pastor, the nurse, you know, the nurse, because we're all experiencing largely the same thing in different ways, but it's the same gigantic unknown. So I thank you all very much for illustrating that so beautifully. Anybody else have anything they learned about themselves? And then we'll kind of wrap it up here. During, you know, it's kind of weird to have somebody say, would you just videotape? I mean, and a lot of you did more than others, but anybody kind of realize something about yourself as you did this project that you didn't kind of think about before? Anybody? That's a hard question. It's a hard question.
Well, I guess what I really learned after watching the video that someone took of me was that my granddaughter is right. Pop big belly.
You all look great. Come on now. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kia did a lot of really great. It's you know, it's what I kind of learned about receiving these videos is that the way you shoot yourselves really is kind of a reflection of your personality, and kind of probably how open you are in real life. So Kia, I love Kia is so high school senior. You know, you get that just energy. That I was watching her videos. I'm like, man, where'd my energy go? I wish I had that kind of bright energy, you know, that Kia has all the time. So we can all learn something from you, Kia, just to keep our energy up and our spirits up, because you have such a bright spirit. And
Thank you so much.
Any other comments before we wrap it up? Anybody have things they learned?
Yeah, so Sarah, just to answer your question from before, watching this documentary helped me to see all of our connections and how how we have so many things in common with each other. We're a really diverse and different group of people who've had really different life experiences, and we live very different lives. And yet this thing has connected human beings in ways, if we let it, right? In ways that maybe we wouldn't have been connected before. Because watching this documentary, we could all empathize with and see ourselves in all of these different folks. And I think that that's really powerful, because it's not facts and figures that change people's minds. It's always the story. So I think it's really important that we've been able to see this little glimpse into each other's lives. And hopefully people will be more empathetic because of it.
Well,
I was going to say, I from seeing the videos that Kia shot, it made me realize that I probably need to stop and slow down my life a little bit and take more pictures of videos. Like I think I struggled to send in videos. And I had a lot of stuff I could, but I just didn't take the time to do that stuff. And I was kind of jealous in a way. She was filming everything. And even Leah, I thought Leah did a lot of, took the time out of her day to take a lot of videos of stuff she was doing. If I could go back, I would definitely stop, slow down, and take more videos and pictures of the stuff that was going on.
I definitely, for me, like, I'll be honest, that it was kind of hard for me to less film. Well, I usually I'm a teen, I'm a senior, so I'm obviously really involved in social media. So I'm always, taking pictures, always recording stuff. But definitely the hard part for me was sending in stuff, because I'd record all this stuff and then just not send it in, because I would just keep it. It's a memento for myself. I knew what it was for. I'm pretty sure Sarah just got a whole if there were notifications on for the box files about who uploads what, she was all at once just saw 10 to 15 videos uploaded, because I was just oh dang, I have to send that in. And then pictures as well. I feel like the pictures definitely do my life justice better than my videos. It shows the more picture perfect points of my life. So
right. Well,
thank you for enjoying it.
Yeah, you do. That's the kind of the pluses and minuses of videos. We people tend to show what they want to show, but I think you guys struck a great balance between getting grittier and also showing the better aspects and more fun aspects. And then I tried to be as polite as possible without being too naggy. Cliff, when he wasn't, I was like, Cliff, we're sending somebody to you because we're not getting enough from you. So I sent DJ Roach, who's directing this program, to Cliff. I said, you can't get away from this. So anyway, we tried to strike a good balance there. So, well, thank you all. I think that's a great, way to end the conversation. Thank you so much again for taking the time to document your life over 3.5 months, and good luck to you all. You should all keep in touch, and hopefully a lot of good can come out of your relationship with each other. I did want to say, programs like this are really made possible by the people who support WILL. So PBS is a great, and WILL is really a great resource for the community, and we can bring community members together like that. So thank you to all the friends of WILL tuning in tonight, and thank you to DJ Roach, who again is directing this program. So thank you all so much, and we'll look forward to maybe revisiting you and your lives in some more months, possibly finding out where you are. And until then, best of luck to all of you. So
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right. Good night.